Okay, everybody, this is See Me Gaming. Today I'm basically going to show you how to add a playoff to your NCAA 14. You can start this either on a new Dynasty or you can start this on your current Dynasty, no matter what year it is. And you can do it every year or you can just skip some years. And you can also do, not just top 4, you can do top 6, top 8. I think I've done like a top 25 playoff once. It's a little bit of work, but you can definitely do it. If you have a PC, USB stick, and then able to download the programs that I'm going to link below, you can do this. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, and I mean, once you get going and know what you're doing, you can 100% do this step in, I don't know, 10-20 minutes once you get good at all the different steps. So basically what I have right here is just a throwaway account to show you how to do it. I recommend doing this a few times on a throwaway account just in case you do screw something up, you can't figure out how to get back, so you don't mess up your main Dynasty. And once you know how to do everything, you can move over to your main Dynasty and you won't risk screwing anything up. Alright, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to get the teams that you're going to be adding to the playoffs. Whether that's just top 4, whether it's top 4 conference winners that you want, or maybe top 6, whatever you want. This is when you're going to pull the teams. So I'm going to do top 4. So this is basically Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Texas. So it'll be Alabama versus Texas and Clemson versus Ohio State. So basically you're going to have either a notepad or note to write everything down, or notepad on your computer, depending on how close you have a computer next to your system. But you can write it down just so you don't have to keep remembering it, and so you don't mess anything up. And basically now you're going to go and you're going to pick out what bowls you're going to be using. So obviously we're going to use the national champion. These basically you're going to stick in 2 filler teams to sit in the national championship when the semifinals are going on, and basically those 2 teams are either teams that are in the bowls or the teams that are going to lose their bowl. Usually I'd grab just 2 teams that are sitting in a low bowl and use them as my throwaway teams, and then move the teams that are going to lose their bowl. Usually I use the Fiesta Bowl and the Sugar Bowl as the semifinal. For like these 2 right now, Texas and Ohio State are both in the playoffs, but Louisville and Florida State are not in the playoffs. So basically, if I take these 2 out, Louisville and Florida State will both lose their playoff spot. And if you want to be nice, or if you don't want to be nice, you can just take them out, and then they just lose their playoff or lose their bowl bid this year. But they've both. But the Sugar Bowl and Fiesta Bowl both high bowls, so it's most likely these are their top bowls, or they're 1 or 2 in their conference. So I would take basically Florida State and Louisville, and I'm going to basically stick them in one of the lower bowls that I'm going to take out. So I think Meineke Bowl is a low bowl, so Minnesota and Iowa are going to lose their bowl, and then I'm going to stick Florida State and Louisville into that bowl, just so that they still have a bowl for the postseason, and the Fiesta Bowl and Sugar Bowl will turn into our semifinal. So probably Alabama and Texas right here, and then Clemson and Ohio State right here. So you're gonna write that down and say, Fiesta Bowl, Alabama, Texas, and then Sugar Bowl is Clemson and Ohio State, and then the 2 small ones, like Minnesota, Iowa, are going to sit in the national championship purely for a filler team, because you have to put a team in there. So they're just going to sit in there for the 1 week and then get pulled out, and then they're going to just lose their bid, which is, it's fine. They were the low teams anyway. But yeah, with this, I mean, you can use as many of these bowls as playoffs as you want. You just go in and add in, when you're in the editor, add in or edit whatever ones that you're going to choose into the bowl. And you don't have to choose just the Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl. You can choose like the Rose Bowl, Outback Bowl, or if you want to make things semi easier, you can just use these and just rename the BBVA Bowl and the GoDaddy Bowl, and just use these 2 as a semifinal, just so everything is right next to each other. But it's completely up to you. which bowl you use, because you don't have to keep the BBVA Compass Bowl. You can basically take it out, name it whatever you want, and you're able to even change that the logo that's right there in the middle. The BBVA Compass Bowl, you can change that, and that can change into, you know, like the BCS National Championship Bowl, or you can change maybe the Rose Bowl or something like that. And you're able to even change the locations of these. So if you want to play the semifinal and you want to choose this one, so it's, you know, right next to here, so you don't have to keep searching for everything. You can just change the GoDaddy Bowl, change the name of it, and change the location, and then it could be really anywhere in the country. And you can do this for any bowl here as well, if you want to change any of these. Like if you want one of these bowls to be like an Ohio State Bowl, or like an Ohio Bowl, and have them play in the Horseshoe, or if you want, you know, play them in the Big House or anything like that, in the North, in the snow, you can do that as well. So basically what we're going to do is save your data or your dynasty once you write down everything. I have this one saved already, and once you're saved, you're basically close out of your game. Okay, and then once you're back into your game, you're going to make sure your USB stick is plugged into your PS3, and you're going to go and find your NCAA 14. And once you go there, you're going to find the Dynasty. So here's my backup. Usually I create a backup of the Dynasty, just in case, you know, something does get screwed up that I can't go back and fix it. I can just go back to like a main one and start editing that one. So basically you're going to click triangle and click copy, and you're going to choose USB device. And if you already have a same name, it's going to tell you if you want to override it. You can go ahead and click yes, and it's going to copy it. And then once it's done, basically just exit out of it and basically pull it straight out and go to the computer. All right, so I'm going to be right back, and I'll be right at my computer. Be right back. Okay, everybody, so we are now at the PC, and your USB stick is in your PC ready to go. So basically you're going to need two programs. You need the EA database editor and a brute force program. They're all going to be linked below. You're just going to install them by basically just opening them, installing them, and then you're good to go. So basically the first thing you do is open up the brute force, which is going to look something like this. You can click the three little dots right here, and it's going to pop up right here. And basically you're going to find your USB device, go all the way down to your Dynasty, and click OK. And then you make sure it's highlighted, and click Decrypt PDF, or PDD, and decrypt all files. Click Yes. And once done, you know, it's going to turn all green, and as well as some gray, and you're good to go with this program. You can go ahead and minimize it. And next you're going to open up the DB editor, which is going to look like this when you first start it. And you can click File, and you click Load Configuration. And basically you're going to go to wherever that folder was that you downloaded it, and you're going to have a bunch of different editors here. Usually I use Pocket Scout because this is the easiest one I want, but all of them are for the most part the same, with a few extra tabs that you can choose. So basically you're going to load up the one that you want to load up. All right, so I'll load it up, and now you're going to open up your file. So basically you're going to go onto your USB drive, into your Dynasty, and find the user data. And basically you're going to click on it and rename it. So you're going to put .NCO2, and then click off of it. And you can go ahead and minimize it now. Now you can go ahead and load up your data. So you're going to go find your data and open it up. So this may take a little while, so I'll be right back. Okay, so now it is loaded. Sometimes it can take a little while, as well as it may take a little bit, especially the further you are in your Dynasty, just because of the data that is saved from each Dynasty is starting to stack up. So we just go ahead and open it. And basically this is what it looks like when we first open it. So these are the teams with all the different data. So we got all-time wins, and you can make changes to any of these as well. You can delete them all, basically reset the league, and go from there. Just make sure you don't delete anything crazy like conferences and everything like that. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go into bowls because we need to get a few numbers from here. All right, so we're basically going to double-click on the game, and right here. So here's the national championship. So we're going to open up our data that we need. And we're going to add in the national championship game. So you can do this on either a piece of paper right here, and you're going to put in bowl ID is 39, and the game number is 40. So we're going to go ahead and put in 40 for the game number, and then we're going to locate the Sugar Bowl right here, which is game number 35. And the Fiesta Bowl is 34. So that one's kind of simple. It's right next to each other. All right, so when we're making changes, we got to make sure, we're making changes 35, 34, and 41. And we can go down to the Meineke Bowl, just so we don't have to come back, and locate that one so we can get that correct number as well. So it is right here, which is game number 20. So I'm going to go ahead and put 20 right here. All right, and we've got our game number. So we can go ahead and go to scheduling data, schedules, double click on game number, and then double click on week. And that'll put the national championship right on top. So basically we are going to be changing the national championship right here. So we're going to change the national championship to Minnesota and Iowa. We're going to go in here, click on it, so and then locate the team. So they're in semi-alphabetical order, which means some of the teams are in the correct spot and some of the teams are randomly inserted. And we need Iowa. So look for the I's first. Iowa. All right, now that one's good. We need to go to team schedule to edit them. Usually I go one by one just to be sure that they all get done. And do it again. Week to game number, week number. And change this one as well. So we're going to change this one to Minnesota. Minnesota. And Iowa. And the next one, we're going to do basically flip them. And it doesn't matter which way they go. It doesn't matter if Iowa's the top one and then Minnesota or Minnesota, Iowa. It does not matter as long as they're flipped on two of them. And then Iowa and Minnesota. Okay, so that one is done. And now the next one we're going to is number 35, which is right here. So Florida State and Iowa, or Florida State and Ohio State. So we're basically changing that one to, since Ohio State's already there, we can just flip them. So we'll put Clemson in this one. Alright, so I changed Auburn, and definitely should not have changed the Auburn versus somebody. So we can go into here. So we are looking for game 36. Scroll down. Game 36 is Stanford Auburn. Alright, so let's put this back to Stanford. Alright, Stanford. Alright, get that moved back, and now change this one. So we are going to change. So before we change that, we're going to make sure Florida State. Well, there, just so we don't forget the team. And we're going to change this one to Clemson. So we can change the correct one to Clemson. And then since we're here, we'll go ahead and put Alabama right here. Right, so we just remember 35, 34, we just flipped these. So 34, 35. Yeah, change this. Okay, so we got that one done. All right, so we got those two done. So 35, which is Clemson versus Ohio State, and 34, Alabama versus Texas. So we're going to do the same thing over here. And find 35 and 34. So 35 will be Clemson. And Clemson. And Louisville's will be changed to Alabama. And Alabama. Okay, now those are done. We will go to the Meineke Bowl in schedule, which is number 20. And we will go ahead and stick Florida State and Louisville there. So they're definitely getting a lower bowl, but at least they have a bowl for the season. So Louisville, and then we will go to game 20 here as well. And change this one to Florida State and Louisville. And then Louisville, Florida State. All right, go back to 20, game number 20, Florida State, Louisville. All right, so check one more time. So the filler team, good to go. Fiesta Bowl and Sugar Bowl both flipped, but they are 35-34. So Clemson versus Ohio State. Clemson versus Ohio State. Alabama, Texas. Alabama, Texas. Go to team schedules. Scroll up. Minnesota, Iowa. Iowa, Minnesota. Then down to the Clemson, Ohio State. Ohio State, Clemson. Alabama, Texas. Texas, Alabama. Okay, so that is definitely good there. And now the next thing we can do is go here and basically change the names of the bowls. So the Fiesta Bowl, we are going to call basically the semi-final bowl, Fiesta Bowl, which you can obviously be more creative if you want to. But we're just for this, we're just going to call it semi-final. Let's capitalize the F. Alright, so got those two. And let's see. I think we're saving simple. Yeah, all these are fine. If you wanted to change a stadium, basically double click on it and pick any stadium you want. And all the stadiums are all the way, are basically here. So it's super simple to change it, as well as, the day, month, everything like that. So next thing we have to do is to be able to simulate play these games, is to change the SGIN game number. So under SGIN, you're going to go to game number. So double click on this. And for game number 40, we're going to change that to 127. Game number 34, we're going to change that to 127. 35, 127. And number 20, 127. So that we can simulate these games. So we need to change that. Okay, so once we are done here, basically what we're going to do is we're going to save the game or save the data. So we're going to click File, Save. So you click Done, you click OK, and you can go ahead and close this down. So close it down and go ahead and open up the data again. And you're going to come in here and change this. Basically take out the MCO2. Click off it, click OK, and you can go ahead and close it. Go ahead and open up brute force, highlight it, and click Encrypt. Click All Files, click Yes, and once it's done, you're back here. You can go ahead and close it. Now you're basically going to go back to your PS3 and start the next process. So I'll see you back there. Back at the PS3, and we're going to go ahead and click on Save Data. Now you're going to scroll all the way up to your USB device and choose your correct Dynasty. Basically, you can copy it back over. It's going to overwrite it. And once that finishes, you're going to open up your game. Alright, so I'll see you back once I load up the Dynasty. Okay, so we are back now at the Dynasty. Let's go check and make sure our bowls are correct. We're going to check the Meineke Bowl. Yep, it's Louisville versus Florida State. That one's good to go. And we're going to scroll all the way down to the two semifinal games right here. So it's Texas, Alabama, and Ohio State, and Florida. So both semifinals, so you can see that the bowl did change. And we can check the national championship, Iowa and Minnesota. Alright, so let's go ahead and simulate these games. Let's simulate all three that we changed. So basically go into scores and locate all the games. Okay, so Louisville and Florida State. So you can either choose to play it or simulate it, whichever one. So I'm just going to simulate it. Okay. So it looks like Florida State won. And that one simulated fine. And we will scroll down to Texas, Alabama. And we can go ahead and simulate this one. And we can go ahead and scroll down to check this one. Make sure everything good. Alright, so Alabama 48, 17. Yep, everything looks good with that one. So it looks like Alabama is going. And let's see who they will be playing. Okay, so it looks like they are playing Ohio State. So it's going to be Alabama and Ohio State. And, alright, so we are going to basically write that down. So, basically going to be Ohio State versus Alabama. And once we write that down, what we're basically going to do is save. So save your Dynasty, and I will see you all back in the PC. Basically, you're gonna do the same thing you did before. Save it to the USB, transfer USB to your PC, and basically we're gonna load up everything the same way. So we'll see you back at the PC. Okay, so we are back at the PC, USB loaded, and basically we're gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna open up brute force. You can close out of that, highlight it, decrypt it, make sure it's the correct one, decrypt it, decrypt all files, click yes, and you're good to go there. Go back to the USB, PS3, save data, and backup. And go ahead and change this to .mco2. Click off, minimize, and go ahead and open up your EA database editor. Load up the configuration that you want. And once it's loaded, you can load up your data. Okay, and now that it is loaded up, we can go ahead and go to Schedule Data. Double-click Game, double-click Week. And basically now we're going to remember Minnesota, Iowa. And we're going to stick them into the slots for Ohio State and Alabama. This will basically, it'll keep everything the same. All the records and stats and everything. It's just for this part, we're just going to have to move Ohio State and Alabama into the national championship. And then once the season is complete, we're going to basically take out Minnesota, Iowa, and put back Ohio State and Alabama back in to the correct location. All right, so we're going to put Alabama right here, and then scroll down here, and then put Minnesota right here. All right, and then for Iowa, we're going to change this to Ohio State. And then Ohio State, we're going to put in Iowa. So again, those are just filler teams. Once the season's over, we're going to change them back to Ohio State, Alabama. Okay, so now that is complete. We're going to go to team schedules and basically do the same thing we did previously, but for the national championship game. So Alabama, Ohio State, and Ohio State. And Alabama. All right, and we made some edits down here. So we're going to locate Ohio State. We're going to change them to Iowa. Iowa. And Alabama is going to Minnesota. And then once the last step is over with, we're going to come back and we're going to change them back, and all the stats are going to look correct. Alright, so we got that changed. Alright, so we're going to go to SGN, scroll over, and confirm that game number is 27. And yes, it is 27. So we can go ahead and save. File. Save. Done. Close this out. Reopen up your save data. Take out the extension. Click OK. Close this out. And go to brute force and re-encrypt all files. Okay, so it's back there, and I will see you back at the PC. Okay, so we are back at the PS3. And we can go ahead and just go straight to scores. And scroll all the way down. Alright, and we have Alabama at Ohio State, or Ohio State at Alabama. So we can go ahead and simulate this game. And go ahead and check. Alright, so it looks like Alabama is the national champions. Alright, so now the next thing we need to do is basically finish up everything. So we're going to go ahead and save the Dynasty and go back to the PC. So I'm going to save the Dynasty and I'll see you back at the PC. Okay, so we are now back at the PC. And we're going to go ahead and open up brute force. So open brute force. Close out of there. Make sure the correct one is chosen. We're going to decrypt all files, click yes. And now we're good to go. So now we're going to open up your data. And change the name. And now open up your database editor. Load your configuration. Open up the save data on your USB. Wait for that to load. Okay, so now that it is loaded, okay, now we got it loaded. We can go ahead and go back to schedule data. Sort everything by game and week. And we can go ahead and make the changes back so that everything looks correct and we will be done. So we're going to go down to Clemson and Iowa, and we're going to change this back to Ohio State. And then we're going to change Minnesota back to Alabama. And again, in team schedules, I'm going to change Iowa to Ohio State. And Iowa to Ohio State. And Minnesota to Alabama. And Minnesota to Alabama. And then you're going to save and basically go back and finish. So we'll be right back. Okay, and we are back in the PS3. So once you load or copy over your save file and load up your Dynasty, you can basically just come back, check out your bowls, and just make sure that the semifinals are correct. Alright, 2 semifinals. Yep, Alabama and Ohio State are back. Alright, and we can go ahead. Okay, and you are complete. So let's go ahead and simulate the rest of the bowls. And take a look at everything after everything is simulated. So be right back. Alright, so season is over, so we can go ahead and check out this top stories. Yep, Alabama and Ohio State won, or Alabama beat Ohio State for championship. You can scroll down to bowl results. And basically just scroll down. Yep, all of them are good to go. So everything got simulated and your playoffs are done. So now you can just basically simulate to the next season and play through the season and basically at the end of the year do it all again. Right? And also, I mean, there's just a bunch of stuff you can do with the editor. Obviously editing all the bowls, editing stadium names, stadium sizes. You can also add conferences. I know inside the data of NCAA 14 there is WAC, Big Sky, SWAC, a fantasy one, or fantasy league. These are all conferences that are inside that you can add, which I'll be going over in another video. But yeah, that's how it is. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. And like and subscribe if you like what I have or what I told you. And have a good rest of the day. Bye.